As I mentioned on 60 Minutes last week, this was highlighted as to the depths of just how bad things have gotten, particularly here in the state of Florida when it comes to insurance. But lest we forget, and we do not get into the hyper-partisan hackery that is politics, kind of like what's going on right now with FEMA and whether they are or are not doing their job, or whether they are lying to the country about whether or not they have the funds to help people in their dire time of need. We definitely have money for Ukraine and Israel. That we definitely have money for. But when it comes to the real meat and potato issues that we are faced with right now, we are getting no sustenance whatsoever. And so we will play this clip, and this will give you guys an idea of just how bad. Well, Colin took a walk. Unfortunately, he does have issues with his internet connection. So he'll be back in a minute, hopefully clips. He just showed up. Colin, just let me know which clip is the first one, I believe. I'm assuming that these are in order, so that I could go one,
The first
one and two.
is the reverse order, the way I just added them.
Okay, so the graph is number one?
The first clip you sent me is the one insurance scam, and then the second one is 60 Minutes.
Okay. All right, so here we go.
Lee says as he dug further into his work from Hurricane Ian, he was stunned to discover the Rapkins weren't the only family whose report was altered.
It was basically all of them. I mean, I handled 46 of them, 44 of them were changed.
Were any of your reports changed to give the policy owner more money?
No.
It was always down.
It was always down.
Down by as much as 98%. One estimate he wrote for $488,000 was changed to $13,000. Another from $239,000 to $3,000. On December 13th, 2022,
my name is Jordan Lee. I'm an independent insurance adjuster, and I work for the insurance companies.
Jordan Lee and two other adjusters testified to Florida lawmakers about what one watchdog group called systematic criminal fraud by the insurance companies.
The scheme was repeated over and over again, not only on my estimates, but on estimates written by other adjusters.
39.
So when you look at this, the original adjuster report claim, this is ultimately what the real value in damage to the given property is. And what you can see here on the right is the adjuster report sent to the homeowner. So this is what the scam looks like in real time. You're claiming $239,691.40 of the report, but the actual report that's going to the homeowner themselves is only $3,476.60. You see, the other problem here we have is greed. On such a colossal level, how the hell do you not get caught? It's not like they're being shrewd about this. It's not like they're skimming a little here, skimming a little there. They're just going for it all. They're like, no, we're going to pocket as much of this as we can. Now, the problem we have here in the state of Florida is that on a multitude of levels, these things are very, very serious. But make no mistake, this is a huge problem because we have a monopolization of the insurance industry in the state of Florida. Most insurance companies have left. They're not here anymore. So we're stuck with Citizens, which is basically a monopoly. Nobody wants to touch Florida. Could you blame them? You already have a high enough risk as it is for at least 3 or 4 months out of the year, where, like I said, you're playing Russian roulette. You do not know what type of a storm season you're going to have. And if you do, is it going to affect you in an adverse way? Berry, Florida has been leveled twice in 5 years. It makes you wonder if it's even worth trying to rebuild it again. Where my team is invested in Florida, it happens to be in the northwest corner of the state, and it just so happens to be out of the path of these storms that are now circulating through the Gulf and running through the elbow or the armpit of Florida. But now you got a storm that's going to go east to west, not north to south. This one's going east to west, and it's going to run directly through Tampa. The damage to Tampa is going to be in the billions and billions of dollars. A direct hit to Tampa apparently has not happened in over 100 years. Well, looks like that's going to change. And a lot of things that wouldn't be considered common occurrences are now going to be more common occurrences than they often were. And so now you're ripe with fraud. Now fraud is everywhere. This is now going to be a common practice. Because what is there to insure? And there is no repercussions. But as I often say, you don't have to believe in climate change. But you know who does? Insurance companies believe in it. Try insuring your property. And you think that's just a problem here in Florida? You wait. Because now you can't even hide. Now you've got hurricanes that literally are making landfall to the tune of 500 miles inland. Throughout history, it's basically always been that once these storms make landfall, they slow down and they're not as dangerous. They become a tropical storm at worst. Not anymore. Now they are raging storms that are making landfall. We'll continue with the clip from 60 Minutes. Trying to get myself lined up, but we have a round table now, so it's a little bit more interesting.
Mandel has been a licensed adjuster since 2017. He did not work for Heritage, but says 18 of the 20 reports he wrote for another carrier after Hurricane Ian were altered. And he says he and other adjusters were instructed by some of their managers to leave damage off reports.
And there was a deliberate scheme to do this. And it wasn't just with one carrier doing this. This was 6 carriers that we discovered were doing this in the state of Florida. They all got the memo.
Which was?
Which was, we're not going to replace roofs. Asphalt shingle roofs. We're not going to replace them. We're going to repair them.
Mandel says he refused to leave off roofs.
So here's a little something that you learn in the commercial real estate game. Roofs have a limited shelf life, depending on where you are, depending on the structure. You usually should be good with roofs for about 15 years. If you get lucky, you could be good with roofs for 20 to 25 years. But that's about it. The other thing you learn in commercial real estate is depreciation. It's one of the most valuable tax write-off incentives that you have when investing in a property. Now, if I remember correctly, I believe that the write-offs on roofs is 27 and a half years, which means you are given a major tax break to replace the roofs. But that, again, is related to investing in property. This is a lot different when this is your home. Now, most people do not look at their homes as an investment. Their home is where it's where your life is. It's where your life is made. It's where it plays out. And yes, roofs do need to be updated. But what is the point of having insurance if you're going to have to pay for it if it gets damaged? It's a total scam. Like, how much more obvious can this be? We're fixing roofs. We're not replacing roofs. So you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like the same problem that we have with our government. They are in the business of fixing problems, not preventing problems. You replace roofs when you're supposed to replace them, not put a little grease on there and say everything's fine. It isn't. And then a catastrophe happens, and then what? This is a systemic problem. And this is what happens when you are in a state where you basically don't have any regulation. The big problem we have with a red state versus a blue state is whether or not you have enough regulation or not enough regulation. And all too often, what you end up with is too much regulation or no regulation. And that is why our system is broken and will continue to fade into out of existence as this just gets worse and worse. I mean, you want to talk about an economic system that is cratering. This is just a prime example of such. It's not enough that they're not going to cover you. It's another thing entirely that they won't cover you and they're stealing your money at the same time. We'll continue.
They were asking me to do something that was illegal.
And why was it illegal?
It's illegal because when I go out to make a damage estimate, I have to put what the damage is, not what they want the damage to be. And so if I leave something off that's supposed to be on there, I can be prosecuted for that.
So the company's telling you, leave the roofs off. We're not paying for roofs, but you keep writing these roofs need replaced.
I wrote the way they're supposed to be.
And you get fired.
And I got fired.
Now,
the reason why he gets fired and the companies continue to do what they do is because when we talk about how our judicial system is bought and paid for by corporate special interests, which it is, you just hire enough high-priced lawyers to make these problems go away. Bundle and bundle and bundle. Yeah, you know, we ended up making $10 billion this year. We're really sorry we let these people down. We'll pay the $2 billion fine and we'll make our $8 billion profit, but we're sorry. My God, if only George Carlin was still alive today.
now Ben Mandel and 5 other whistleblower adjusters are represented by attorney Stephen Bush. Bush worked as a public adjuster for more than a decade.
What the carriers are doing, in some instances, what they've said was if the policyholder needs a new roof, then we're going to make them make us pay. In other words, file a lawsuit, and then we'll pay you for your roof.
But unless they do that, they're not getting the roof paid for?
They're not getting it. They're not getting it. Most people will not stand up and fight. I cannot tell you how many people come to me and say, hey, what was I going to do? I had to replace my roof.
And do you think the insurance companies know that? They're betting on that most people are just going to roll over?
No question they know.
And therein lies the rub. This is kind of like, it's a very similar scenario to when somebody gets you to sign up for, let's say, some type of a mailing list or some type of a reoccurring charge month to month for, could say Netflix, think of anything. It's a monthly payment plan. And when you decide that you don't want this anymore, actually a gym membership is probably better because most gyms are not actually customer friendly. They have a certain type of business model. What they're banking on is that you'll never leave. It's part of the reason why they make it cheap. But to leave, oh, it's a pain in the ass. And so what they're counting on is that you're just not going to want to deal with the problem. And you just let it go. Same thing is true when you are trying to fight City Hall, in this case, the major insurance provider. They're counting on you not to do anything because what are you going to do? How are you going to hire a $500 an hour attorney and their team to take the insurance company to court in which you'll likely lose money in the long run and maybe they'll have to pay out? They're counting on you not doing that. And that's why this problem will get worse and worse and worse as we go forward. Will there be a mass exodus out of Florida? I'm not sure about that. I just think a lot of what's going to end up happening is the rental crisis is going to get worse and worse because we've allowed private equity to dominate the housing market in the state. Commercial real estate as well, but certainly housing, no question about it. That's a huge problem. It's a colossal problem. It is maybe the issue of our lifetime. and why the economic system is finally collapsing, which has taken longer than it should have.